So yes, you were saying the nice thing is that they're paperback books, and so they're not like brand new or hardcover copies, but then that, oh, wait a minute, let me pull this back up. There we go. So, so the nice thing is that they're paperback copies, which, paperback copies, it's funny, if I choose, sometimes I'm totally fine. All my Mysterious Benedict Society books, for example, are paperback. Also all my Madeline Langle from when I was a teenager. So anyway, that's awesome because I also feel like they can get well loved, but then you don't feel awful like you do if a hardcover book gets spoiled or damaged, and then you don't have to deal with that kind of disappointment.
Well, some of our books are hardback, actually.
Oh, some are. Okay.
Yeah. So I was able to work with Thorndike, and they were able to give me a pretty good discount. And I was able to get a mix of hardbacks and paperbacks. But yes, and I do see that was part of the reason why I had such difficulty at the very beginning. Like letting these things go. And whenever this whole program started, I didn't get a whole lot of money for my library program per year. It was very underfunded. And so any book I got, I felt that we had to keep it nice and keep it forever, because who knew whenever I was able to get that again. But through, just realizing that it's best for these kids to have the availability, and to also to get over that hump of them saying, I don't want to check it out because I don't want to lose it. That was what was more important to me, was that they had that availability and they didn't have to worry about it. So, that hurdle was gone. And last year, it really took off. It really did. Our carts were often empty. I was having to shuffle books around all the time, and that was a fun thing for me. But what was awesome was that the teachers started reading the books too.
Oh, cool.
And that was an unexpected benefit. I didn't even think about it. But the teachers started reading them, and they started talking to the kids about the books, and I would see them in the hallways with a book. We have all of our English department is in one hallway, and I would walk down the hall and there would be teachers standing at their doors during passing period reading books, and that just really made me happy.
I love that.
Yeah, that was
like nose in a book, literally. Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So, and the large print helps the teachers too, because first of all, you're constantly distracted, right? As a teacher, you got 8,000 things happening at once.
Right.
So they were able to find their place very quickly. But also too, English teachers have eye fatigue from reading and yes. And the large print really did help. They said it was easier on their eyes. They were able to read more comfortably. So they actually preferred reading the large print than to what the other books they had in their classroom. So that was nice. It was good. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's super cool. And so like the bigger picture even there, just like how many people already beyond the students have been impacted by the program is just cool. And it made me wonder too, I was just curious how much it costs to keep your program up and running. What does that look like?
So the first year, whenever my principal said I have money, he gave me $7,000 for books, and I was able to actually, it wound up being the books were $7,000. I did buy 4 metal rolling bookcases to put them in, but that was another fund. So it was $7,000. And then, so that was spring of 2020. And then when fall of 2020 came, I got a new principal. And for me, it was a little bittersweet because I had just established this idea with that other principal, and he leaves. And so now, now I have to reestablish this idea with this principal. Lucky for me, I got a principal who I actually taught as a student.
Oh, no way.
Another McCullum graduate.
Yeah.
So he and I talked it out. He's like, what is this program? And I was able to explain it. He goes, well, I have $7,000 more for you if you want it. I was like, yes, please.
Yeah, I'm not
So
gonna say no to that.
exactly. We were able to get $14,000 worth of books that first year. And so I was able to overbuy. Yeah, I was able to overbuy. And we have since had, it's been 7,000 for every year since then. So, so we are able to purchase enough. Yeah, we're able to purchase enough to buy 5. So for each month, we have enough for 5 titles. So how much is that? 9 months times 5, 45. There we
45.
go.
Yeah.
45 titles. But like, I'm still using books from that first year and from that second year. I'm able to bring them in too. So yeah. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get 7,000 more for in the spring for next year.
That's incredible. I mean, it's just so cool because I know how much books cost. I'm always on the hunt. I mean, I love books. Books are a big part of my life and of my kids' life. And as a teacher, they were part of my life, obviously. I actually have a ton of book boxes around the house and baskets, but I only have a few bookshelves. And so typically the books that go up here are special, near and dear to my heart. Like the very, very top are adult books. These are a young adult or like middle grade, and then picture books, Usborne, different things. But I know how much money books cost, you know? And so like, and I love kids' books. I love it if I can find a good deal on Amazon or even with Target. Like I never buy them in the store because it's always cheaper to buy them online, whether they're doing a 2-for-1 or whatever. But you really have to like do some research to learn where the deals are at. And it's no easy feat, you know? And so like knowing how much money it's required to keep things up and running, in addition to how much bang for your buck you've gotten. It's just really, really cool to hear.
Yeah. And it's nice because it's not just like a single group receiving the benefit of this. And it's the entire school. It's our entire, it's our faculty and our staff. And so we're able to affect a lot of people. And I would consider that to be pretty cheap, but I don't know. I'm from Texas. Everything's about football. So
yeah,
I would say compared to the football program, $7,000 is pretty cheap.
For sure. Like there's no arguing that one. So, okay, I've just kind of had this question in the back of my head, but I have to ask it. And of course. It is totally up to you how much you want to share or divulge, but what books made you fall in love with reading? Whether it's picture books, chapter books, or even now, like books you've read. What books would you like put on that top list?
So as an elementary school student, I actually struggled as a reader.
Really?
I was not in the best group. Like in my day, they put kids into different groups and they were birds. And I knew that the best readers were cardinals, and I was not a cardinal. But once I got a hold of Clifford the Big Red Dog.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
We love
yes. Still very favorable. That was one of my favorite stories, and I really loved that. Then in middle school, I read Robin, I think her last name is McKinley, The Blue Sword. Robin McKinley's The Blue Sword. And that was the first female-centered story and it's also it's a chapter book. It's a pretty heavy duty, like high fantasy chapter book.
Yeah, she does like some fairy tale retellings and fantasy, doesn't she?
Yes, she does. And The Blue Sword is a totally different world, but it's really fabulous. It's really beautiful. And that is one of my favorite books. Then in high school, I read everything and anything. I read a ton of mysteries. I was in band, and I would have a book on the music stand in front of the music. And while they were working with other people, I was reading a book. So I was a constant reader. But one of the books that really, really affected me was To Kill a Mockingbird.
A
And
classic.
yeah. And so for the longest time, I actually reread The Blue Sword and To Kill a Mockingbird every summer. Those helped to recharge me as an English teacher and also as a writer. So, but now as a librarian, the book that I always recommend is, like I said, Eleanor and Park, Rainbow Rowell. I love that book. And I don't think it's just because I'm a child of the 80s, you know, like I grew up in the 80s. I know exactly what she's talking. I know exactly what she's talking about. But I just think that book really speaks to a lot of different people on a lot of different levels. And I also actually one of the current ones that actually surprised me recently was a book called The Sacrifice Box. And it is a horror story that is absolutely terrifying.
Like keep you up at night type. Like don't read it at night because you might not go to sleep.
You should not read it, especially since your family has stuffed animals nearby. So
oh, we've got plenty. Yeah. My middle kiddo, that's like she like doesn't use pillows. She has so many in her bed. She just sleeps on the stuffed animals. Okay.
Do not ever let her read The Sacrifice Box. But teens love that horror stuff, right?
Yeah.
They always want to read. Yeah, they always want to read Stephen King, but as Stephen King has gotten older, he's gotten more verbose. No offense, Stephen King, but if you're going to release a 1,200 page book, you know, like, you know,
that's
maybe,
dense. Yeah.
Maybe winnow it down for the high school kids, like, but they always want that kind of really great horror story. And for the true horror story readers, I recommend The Sacrifice Box. Those images are still with me. I'm a very visual person. So whenever I read, I'm seeing the movie, and those images are still very much with me. And I read it 2 years ago. Yes, 2 years ago. So that's what I'm recommending right now.
And it's October, so I mean, I always enjoy a few spooky reads. So I'm a consistent reader of Harry Potter, whichever illustrated version or whatever I'm on during the fall, especially the holidays, because it's always like, well, it's first of all Wizards, so Halloween, but then also there's like the Christmas holiday that's often brought up. So I'm always reading one of those, but I've read them so many times. That's just kind of like, I read the illustrated version to mix it up. But then I try to read a murder mystery. Agatha Christie is often at the top of my list. Currently, I'm reading A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. It was part of my book club venture this month. But I don't go crazy because I tend to, like you said, keep visual with me for a while. And so like, I don't, and sometimes if it's really spooky, I cannot read it right before I go to bed or I can't fall asleep.
No.
So.
And I do want to say something, you're going to be really jealous. I was able to add a Harry Potter book club component to Cowboys Reads this year.
Oh, that's so cool. Yes, I am jealous. I will always love anything Harry Potter related. I went to a Scarecrow festival earlier this week and someone had made, well, there was, of course, a Harry Potter Scarecrow, you know, cute pumpkin head with the glasses and a wand. And then someone had made a Ravenclaw Quidditch. So they're holding the snitch or whatever. Super clever. And it was so funny because I was with someone and she didn't know what it was. And I was like, are you kidding me right now? But I need to be like more gracious because I'm like, I definitely like, I have to tease people who like see the platform 9 3/4 and they're like, why is someone writing a mixed number on their classroom door or like for Halloween decorating this way? And like, you know, like that it kind of, they gloss over it or whatever. But I'm like, I'm so entrenched in the Harry Potter world. I've got some Legos up here. I mean, Hagrid and
Nice.
Dumbledore and like 3 versions of
Nice.
Harry and Butterbeer and Ron, you know, like it's no small thing. And you could definitely say it's an obsession, so it's fine. I need to actually dedicate one of my bookshelves to the versions of Harry Potter that I have, or one of my shelves someday.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
cool though. That's really cool.
Yeah. We made wands in our
Oh,
first
I love
meeting.
it.
And it's I'm able to do it through Cowboys Reads. And so again, kids get books and they come back, they don't come back, they don't come back. And we're I have a lot of kids reading the books, but not necessarily participating in the book club.
Right.
And but I want the next step for me is like incorporating these times that kids can talk about these books and talk about how, whether it's Harry Potter or something that they pick up, The Outsiders or whatever. You know, Tigers Not Daughters is one of our books this month. And I had a really good conversation with a young lady, and I told her, you know, you should come and visit us at lunch so we can sit and talk about it. And she's like, oh, maybe I'll do it. But like they're reading the books now, but it's like how the next step is like we need to teach them what to do with that. Like
yes.
how they can talk about it, how they can communicate about these books, and how to incorporate what they've learned from it into not only their lives, but also into their homework, into their essays, into, you know, they can get that inspiration from a book, you know, and use it wherever they need to. But again, they don't know that. So that's part of the idea of like, okay, now you've read it, here's what you do with it. Right. So, and it's not always for a grade. You don't,
right.
Reading is not for a grade. Real reading.
That is a really important concept. And honestly, the reason I say that is I never struggled with reading. I've always loved it. And sometimes that can be kind of rare. But for example, like I got chickenpox in 2nd grade and I read the entire Little House on the Prairie series during
nice.
a week and a half or whatever it was that I wasn't at school. Like I was always reading. I started reading Little Women actually as an 8-year-old, and it continues to be a reread for me each year. I have 3 sisters and I always love seeing the May sister or March sisters, not May. I read a rendition of Little Woman in Blue. So it's like a different perspective of Little Women. But anyway, it's been a reread constantly for me too. So like there's all these things I get excited about, but I feel like when the only time that I felt jaded or sad about reading was when I did like the Accelerated Readers Program. And I've always read quickly and I've comprehended, but I remember specifically, I don't know what grade I was in. I was reading Wuthering Heights. And I had not finished it in time to take the test, but I had to take the test, take the test. It was time. And it actually took me a few years to go, like just a few years ago that I went back and reread it so that I could actually enjoy the book. So I could enjoy a classic book, a Bronte sister book. And so like that, I share that story, not to like discourage people, but in the educational system, there are ways to encourage reading, and assess is not one of the ways.
I agree. I have very specific opinions about Accelerated Reader, and we will not go into them at this time.
Fair enough.
But it is, how do you encourage a love of reading without forcing kids to do something for a grade? Like, I mean, love of reading and I have to read this because I'm getting graded on it. Those two don't connect. That's not the path, I guess. In my mind, it's more about having fun. It's more about enjoying the reading experience, and also just being able to open up your mind and, experience something from a different person's point of view. These authors are sharing their lives with you. And the more that I can get those different experiences out there on my campus and into my community, I think we're going to build better kids. That's a very, that is a very, I don't want to say pompous, but it is quite, it is quite the goal, isn't it? Like,
Yes.
I really want to have students who are more empathetic and who are more willing to be more open-minded toward others and toward different experiences and different perspectives. And I think reading is the best way to do that. It's super cheap. You know, like, you don't have to have a computer. You don't have to have a phone. You can just have this book that's sitting in our hallway, and you can experience something totally different and totally new. Now, don't tell that to the kids. Don't like,
Yeah.
I don't want to, I don't want to ruin the fun.
Yes.
But
exactly.
Yeah.
No, I love what you're saying and all that you represent with this program. It's just fabulous. I love whenever I can learn from people about different ways to make reading exciting and valuable. It's, you know, it's interesting because I already mentioned my love for Harry Potter, but when I met a teenager recently who works at the karate studio where my son takes lessons, and I mentioned something about Harry Potter, she kind of shuddered. And I looked at her and I was like, wait, have you read Harry Potter? And she's like, no, but I don't read. Like, I haven't read anything since I was in 5th grade. So this is a high schooler now. And I'm like, really? I was like, so what you're telling me is you're trying to find the right book, because I don't believe that anyone hates reading. You just haven't found the right book or series yet. So what you're telling me is you haven't found that motivation and that right book yet, you know, kind of not letting her off the hook. But it was like, it's fine. I don't at all judge you if you don't like Harry Potter, but you have to at least give it a shot. Like, if you won't even read it, or read any, you know, if you're really going to claim that, because I know people who say, oh, I like literally read Twitter or I read this. I'm like, that's all you do for reading. Like, you're an adult and you're hoping to self-improve, and that's what you consider good self-improvement reading material.
Yeah. No.
Like, you're just like, so I get if you're not a fantasy or fiction lover. You know, I happen to like very diverse books. I love historical fiction, but I love memoirs. I love autobiographies, and I enjoy self-help books. Yes, I enjoy them. I like fantasy. It's one that I like. It depends on how it's presented, but I like all kinds of things. Like, there's nothing I don't like, but because I like different things about each type of genre, I'm like, there's no way you can tell me you don't like to read. So you haven't found what you like reading.
Yeah, exactly. You haven't found the right book. And that's something else too that this Cowboys Read program has allowed for. Like, there's no shame in putting a book back on the cart that you don't like.
Yeah.
There's no shame in not finishing a book, because you know what? There's better books out there for you. And you can always pick up something else. You can just put it back if you don't want to. A lot of kids, whenever they would bring books back to the library, they're like it's almost like they're approaching me and they're confessing, Miss, I didn't read it. And it's like, okay, fine, let's find something else, you know? So like, that idea of like getting in there and trying out different things. And so they're able to try things very easily with this program. So I'm very happy with how far we've gotten. I hope that we're able to continue it and able to be successful too. So
I hope and desire that same thing for you. And I just love what you represent. And I was going to ask you, first of all, if there's anything else you want to share, just that you've been thinking about in relation to the program or reading, and then also where our listeners can follow along with you, whether it's social media or a blog or whatever it might be.
Currently, you can go onto our Cowboys Read website.
Okay.
If you just go and Google Cowboys Read, it does have an exclamation point at the end. You'll be able to find it. It's very easy. There is a shortened URL, and I believe it is bit.ly /MHSCR 2020.
Okay.
And that's our URL. So that's what we're doing right now. And you'll see all the pictures of the Snack and Chats and the Harry Potter Club and things like that. I hope to eventually get more student involvement in the website, having kids do summaries of the books that they liked, and having the kids even choose the new titles is where I want to go from here. Like, I want more student involvement rather than just me saying these are the books that we're having, so that they have more ownership of it.
Right.
Where do I see this going? That was the other part of of the question, right? Where do I see this going? I hope that that we do start having more of like book clubby, book talky kind of things, where we can just even have nights where we're in the cafeteria and we're just like sitting at a table talking about books, and not only involving our students but also their parents, getting them involved in the community. That is also slightly frightening, because our books are young adult books, and so there are adult themes in the books, and some of our parents are not as open-minded as their children are in regards to topics and language. But again, it's bringing in the community, and it's bringing them into their child's world. High schoolers don't let their parents in very often. They're very selective about what they let their parents see and what they let their parents be involved in. So it would be really wonderful if the parents could also become involved and start reading as well. So it doesn't hurt to have them there, but we'll see. Fingers crossed. That's we'll see how long that takes.
Yes, and the hard thing is, though, I mean, the good thing is that you have a vision and you want to capture it, but that's the unknown is more like how long it might take and what other resources you may have to pull in. But it's just so awesome what you're doing, and I love hearing about it and learning about programs like this. I'm just really glad you came on today, Terrie. It's been awesome.
Oh, thank you so much, Katie. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for your patience with the technical difficulties.
Not even a problem. Not even a problem. Well, Terrie, you take care. I hope to, as I look up your website and learn more, just keep hearing and seeing good things. And then I look forward to our podcast coming out soon.
I do too. I'm excited for it.
Awesome. Okay, well, you have a good evening. We'll chat soon.
Thank you so much. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.